Hello everybody.
Hi.
Some of you have never seen me before, and it's because I'm usually upstairs doing sound for the Chinese service. But I'm so glad I can be here. I think I was more excited about being able to be here from beginning to end. Sometimes I come here just to attend the worship or hear the message. This is the first time I get to actually be here from beginning to end. Didn't expect to be sharing very well as what's happening, but it's okay. So the first thing I would like to share is when David first approached me about last month, if I wanted to share, I was a bit hesitant. Not because I'm nervous speaking in public, but it was more because my sharing, my testimony, is kind of not typical. Like most Christian sharings, most Christian testimonies, they usually talk about their life before they became a Christian, their life before they met Jesus, and how sad or bad it was. And then the pivotal moment, when you become a Christian, when you decide to accept Jesus, and how life-changing it was. And then they share about how God has changed their lives, how their lives are so different. Mine wasn't like that. My journey with God spanned across most of my life, and God never gave up on me. I was a very rebellious person, and I was very stubborn. And even though at one point in my life I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, it took me a long time before I finally submitted to Him and allowed Him to be the Lord of my life. And that's what I'm going to be sharing about today. So when I was younger, when I was really young, when I was about 5, 6 years old, my mom used to drag me to Sunday school every morning. I'm an only child. She was the only Christian my dad wasn't. She would drag me to Sunday school, and I hated it because I wanted to sleep in. I had to go to Chinese school on Saturdays. I had to get up early, and I also had to get up early for school. And then every Sunday morning I had to get up early also. So from when I was about 5 years old to probably about 10 or maybe 12, I had to go to Sunday school at her church. And I just couldn't stand it, and I kind of resented her for it, and I didn't like church. But God didn't give up on me. And a few years later, it was very interesting. When I was in high school, one of my friends, one of my classmates, who was not a Christian, he invited me to go to a retreat. And I didn't know what a Christian retreat was, but when he said it had to do with church, I didn't want to go. And the reason why he had to go, even though he wasn't a Christian, was because his grandmother was attending the Chinese service. It was a Chinese retreat. They had an English and Chinese section, right? And he had to kind of keep her company to make sure that she was okay. So he had to go. And he's like, come on, man, you got to go with me. And I'm like, no way. I'm sick of church. I don't want anything to do with it. And he said one sentence to me which pretty much persuaded me. And this goes to show how shallow I was back then. He goes, there are going to be girls there. And I'm like, okay. What do I say? Right? So that was all it took. And so I went. And the first couple of days we were really bad. We didn't attend any of the meetings. We just kind of hung out in our rooms, or we just went out. We went off to places that we shouldn't have. But around the third day, we got caught, and we had to go to the meetings. And I sat through the meetings, and they talked about God, and I wasn't really paying attention. But what happened was, afterwards, we all broke up into groups. And in my group, in my small group, there are people my age at the time. They were also high school students, and they were really unique. I was like, wow, they're really different. They were very kind and genuine people. They seemed very polite, and they're really well behaved. They didn't curse, and I was like, wow, what's up with these people? And I was just trying to figure it out the whole time there. And then, of course, as the retreat went on, I started to realize, some of that Sunday school stuff started coming back. They're Christians, and they believed in God, they believed in Jesus, and this is why they act the way they do. And sometime right before the retreat was over, when I was just getting on the bus, ready to leave, I was thinking, you know what? I think I want what they have. I want to be like them. So I prayed a short prayer on the bus. I'm like, God, if you're real, if you're out there, I want to believe in you. I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. And that was my pivotal moment, right? And after that, I found out, coincidentally, right, those people in my small group, we actually all went to the same high school, right? So, and then I started attending their church, and I actually got baptized at that church. So you would think that after that, I would grow as a Christian and in my walk with God. But no, at that time, I had no idea what it meant to be a Christian. Because it was really easy for me to say something like, Jesus, would you be my Savior, right? But Lord, what did that mean? I had no idea what that meant. I mean, if you think about it, we live in America in a society where there are no kings, there are no lords. We have a lot of freedom. In fact, if we wanted to, we could have a picket sign and we could be outside of the White House insulting Obama and we wouldn't get arrested. We have that much freedom to disrespect even our leaders. So I had no idea what it meant to submit to a lord or a king. And because of that, I compartmentalized my life, basically. Okay, so check out this. It's not happening. Okay, check out this blueprint. Right? Now, if you can imagine my life was like a floor plan, and my life had many rooms, right? Jesus should have access to all these rooms, but he didn't. I didn't realize I was doing this, but I only allowed him access to basically one room, and that room, I would call it my Sundays, my Fridays, and my ministry. So every Sunday, every Friday, which was our fellowship time in my ministry, I helped a lot. I served a lot at church. I was on a worship team. I was a youth leader eventually. I was part of the leadership at one point. God, these are yours, right? You're allowed in this room. But what I didn't realize what I was doing was I had many other rooms, and I did not allow God to access them. For example, relationships. God, I can't stand this person in my family. Can you please stay out of that? Or, God, I really, really like this girl, but she's not a Christian, but please, I really want to be with her. Is that okay? I wasn't really asking for permission. I was just pretty much telling him, God, I don't really want you in that part of my life. School. God, you don't know how much pressure I have. I really need to do work. Do I really have to do I really have to spend time with you? School is more important. God, my hard-earned money, if I don't tithe all the time, is that okay? And does it have to be 10%? Come on, God, it's my money, please, this is mine. And in fact, my job, my career, do I really have to follow your will? I mean, is it okay? Is there anything wrong if I wanted to do what I wanted to do? So basically, I was telling God that, all my decisions, everything that I wanted to do, a lot of it was, I wanted him to keep out of it. I didn't want him to touch it. I didn't want him to access it. And so I compartmentalized my life. And how could I confess that Jesus was the Lord of my life when I did this? When he only had access to that particular room, and everything else, I pretty much shut him out. And so that's the way I lived for a very long time. I lived a very hypocritical life. And let me see this. So I found this quote several years ago, and I thought it was really appropriate when I read it because it reminded me of me during that time. There are two kinds of people. Those who say to God, thy will be done, and those to whom God says, all right, then have it your way. So for many years, God allowed me to have it my way. He didn't give up on me, but he allowed me to pretty much have it my way. And so all those things you saw before, all those doors, sadly, they led to greater and greater defiance, greater and greater rebellion. And I don't want to get into the gory details, but it led to a lot of bad behavior, bad relationships, addictive habits, and secret sin. And I did all this while serving in church, serving as a youth leader, serving on the worship team. And eventually, just about 10 years ago, God, in his mercy, in his kindness, he didn't allow it to happen anymore. I guess you can say in some ways he had enough and he wanted me back, basically. He really wanted all of me. He wanted access to all of me. So eventually, like I said, in his mercy, all that stuff was eventually revealed. It got exposed. It was kind of you can say it was like a mini scandal at my church. And I had to go before leadership, apologize, and I had to step down from all my responsibilities, and a lot of my friends were shocked and ashamed, and it was a really humbling experience. It was probably one of the most difficult times of my life. And church was my family back then, just like very much it is now. And a lot of my friends, they stopped talking to me. They stopped associating with me. Some of them were really just, they pretty much rejected me and cut me off. So I had lost everything that was really, really important to me at the time. And I felt very lonely and I felt very ashamed. And I remember there was this one point where I just felt so broken and so sad. And I was crying out to God, like, God, I want to be this desperate for you all the time. Because that was the first time ever when I said, God, I made a mess of my life. Take control. Take control of my life. And that was the first time I allowed God access to all those areas of my life and to have Him kind of set it right again, basically. So I just want everyone, if you have Bibles, you can turn to a verse. It's in Luke 6. I believe it's 46 through 49. So I'm just going to read it. It says, "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I tell you? Everyone who comes to me and hears my word and does them, I will show you what he is like. He is like a man building a house who dug deep and laid the foundation on the rock. And when a flood rose, the stream broke against the house and could not shake it because it had been well built. But the one who hears and does not do them is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. When the stream broke against it, it immediately fell, and the ruin of that house was great." And that's from Luke 6, 46 to 49. And I was that man who said, "Lord, Lord, Jesus, I am yours. I sang all the songs. I am your servant. You are my king." But I just didn't do what he said. And when the waters came, my house fell down, basically. So after I finally submitted to God, I went through what I call a period of wilderness. And some of you who know me now, I shared about it last year around my birthday. I said that I feel like God is finally bringing me out of this wilderness. In the Bible, the Jews wandered around for 40 years because of their sin. And I felt like for the last 10 years I had been kind of wandering around. I didn't have a real church home. God was really restoring me during that time. The broken pieces of my life, He was putting it back together very slowly. He was revealing a lot of things in my life that I needed to change. Areas of brokenness, areas of wounding that needed healing. And I finally allowed God to access those areas, so I experienced a lot of healing and deliverance over the last 10 years. But it was very painful, it was very slow, and I just didn't know when it would end. And there were many points I wanted to give up. And I was wondering, God, were you out there? But He always was. It was me that was wavering. It was me that was just wondering when it would end. But God was faithful, and He just really wanted to purify and refine me. And I'm not perfect now, but I really believe that through this period, God brought a lot of restoration in my life. He took a lot of my pain and my shame. He took it away, and He gave me joy. Just like that song. So many of my things, He just pretty much replaced them with the exact opposite. He turned my sadness and gave me joy. He turned my mourning and I was able to almost just basically dance because God had taken all this stuff and changed it completely. So I guess what I wanted to ask for most of you, because most of you are Christians, is do you have any areas in your life that you have not given God access to? I mean, all of us, we are not perfect, and we have areas where we don't want God to touch because they're either too painful or we just want to have control of that area. And if God isn't sitting on the throne in these areas, then something I want to challenge you and ask you is, then who is? Is it you? Is it something else? Is it a thing, or is it a person? Just think about that, and I challenge you that don't just allow God to be the God of your Sundays or your Fridays. Please try to allow God in every area of your life. Something else, if you have if you've been a Christian for a while, all of us, whether it's our mind and thoughts, our emotions and reactions, our work, family, will and decisions, even our sexuality, relationships, money and finances, all those things eventually need to be submitted to God. Jesus says, when you say to Jesus, Jesus, be my Lord and my Savior, He just doesn't want to be a Lord of one part of your life. He would want to be the Lord of all your life. And because after doing that, I've experienced peace and healing that I never experienced before. And a lot of my bad behavior became because I was just trying to find something else to substitute for God's love. Some of you have been a Christian for a while, and maybe some of you also have experienced pain in your life. If some of you have experienced hurt, betrayal, maybe that's a room in your floor plan that you haven't allowed God to access. If you allow God to access that part of your life, I really believe that He can heal and restore as well. And finally, if you're not a Christian, if you're here and you've not really first committed to God at all, if you haven't received Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, I really believe that God can, once you allow Him control of your life, He can restore your life, and He can reveal His plans to you, and He can also just show you how much He loves you. And I just want to leave everyone with this quote. Because some of you may think, man, God seems so unreasonable. Why does He want all of me, right? This is the quote. It's from a pastor and a writer named George MacDonald. He says, God desires not that He may say to them, look how mighty I am, and go down upon your knees and worship. For power alone was never yet worthy of prayer, but that He may say thus, look, my children, you will never be strong, but with my strength. I have no other to give you, and that you can only get only by trusting in me. I cannot give it to you any other way. There is no other way.